Hello everyone. So today I wanted to talk about some of the ways that I have educated myself, just found ways, I guess you could say, to deal with loneliness, depression, anxiety, and just mental stress in general either from people, like the experience of being with other people, or from not being with people. They're kind of two and one and the same. And I think that there is people that have grown up being able to deal with it better than others, for one reason or another. I personally, it's gonna sound corny, but in the times in my life that I really started isolating and being alone a lot more, I see now, through a lot of therapy that I've been through and introspection, just really taking a look at my experience and trying to understand it. What I see is that there was a certain aspect of me that was coming out when I was around other people that wasn't really who I personally was. And I think my younger self decided to isolate because I couldn't see any other way. I wanted to get back to who I was and be myself, but I didn't know that at the time. It was just, when I look back at my experiences, that's the conclusion that I've come to. And one of the ways that I did that was to do art. I would just spend time on my art, drawing, painting, making wax, dyeing, colours, just all different kinds of art. And I also was studying scripture. I was studying the Bible at the time. I grew up in basically agnostic, atheist family, but I was finding a lot of joy in reading the Bible. And, well, I say in reading the Bible, I didn't find a lot of joy in reading the Bible. I found certain parts of the Bible that I resonated with. Around the age of 16, and 16, 17, yeah, about 16, video gaming was another thing. But just to go back to the Bible study, I bought this special journal that to this day I still miss that journal. I don't know where it went, but it was like a textured journal, and it was just a really good journal. I don't know, the pages were just perfect, and the binding was just really sensory. And I would read scripture and write down my favorite quotes in the book, and I would draw little artsy things around it with color, and I would maybe even write down what I think that means. And that's when I started getting into self-help as well, because right around that time I was looking at self-help books and spiritual books, things like that. And that was the beginning of a period of time where I kind of isolated myself more. I made that choice because from a young age I'd been schooled, like I'd been in formal education, so I was around people a lot, and had a really good time at primary school. As soon as I turned kind of into a teenager, that completely flipped on its head, and the situation was different, and that's when I started to isolate a bit more. And I go through periods, I think in my life, like in a 10-year period, where I'm like really social, and then drops like to the point where I can't like I remember, you know, after high school, isolated myself for like a good year where I wasn't even hanging around with anybody, doing nothing like that. And then when I went to college and university, you know, I was around people a lot, especially at university because I was living with people. And then I just remember getting really depressed, even though I was around people. And that's when I dropped off again. And I went traveling. You know, I had some good moments there, and then was out in the world and doing things, you know, working a little bit here and there, and again kind of dropped off. So I go through these like around people, not around people, around people, and not around people. And it usually is that when I'm not around people, I want to be around people. But when the time comes, there's still stuff to be worked out when I'm around people. It's this weird kind of a dichotomy where loneliness is a strange situation, you know. It's like you can feel lonely in a room full of people, right? And yeah, I don't have it all figured out or anything. I think my main, you know, tools there was art and writing, and like just speaking, expressing, creating, even if it's just a meal that you really want to eat, you know, those simple things. So yeah, when it comes to educating yourself to deal with mental stress, life will educate you on that, you know. It will push you to the brink so that you can see that it's not as bad as it could be. Like the situations in your life that usually cause you stress, you get pushed to the brink to a point where you're like, oh, actually my life's not so bad. I noticed that happening a lot, and it brings, like, I have a bit better grasp on peace in my life when that happens, because I'm like, oh yeah, things could be a lot worse. And you actually go through that experience viscerally in some way. That's what I've noticed about life anyway. It kind of teaches you in ways that show you things could be not worse, but like, it's hard to explain. A situation might pop up with someone that makes you feel really uncomfortable, and you start to be grateful for what you have, if that makes sense. What you already had, you know, and you didn't need to go out and add some other people to the equation, because they only cause more stress. Anxiety, you know, just constantly moving about, can't take the right, just trying to make action happen, make things happen, but deep down you feel like none of these actions are really what you want to do. Taking the right action. That's what I've been talking about with our tarot circle this month, is justice, all about taking the right action. The right action is like when you feel really aligned with the action that you take, even if it's just sitting down and meditating. Trying to get to that space is like the antithesis of anxiety, you know. The opposite of anxiety is taking right action. Anxiety is usually taking action from a place of like not knowing what to do. Just like can't relax in anything. Just full of stress in all that you do, or a lot of what you do in a day. And then depression is the opposite, where you're kind of in bed all day, or you're lethargic, can't do anything. And don't really have anything I can educate on that. I know some people take pills for that. I know some people take substances for that. I know that some people do hypnosis therapy, meditation for that. Go on walks for that, you know. Who knows what will work for you in a moment. And yeah, like not letting the mental stress compile on top of you, where you start analysing all the things that are wrong with your life. Usually it's not that bad, it's just that you're in a moment of... I don't know if you've ever seen Howl's Moving Castle, where Howl, he ends up having his hair dyed orange, even though his hair's blonde. And he starts to just like go into his own like self like pity mode, where if he can't be beautiful, then he doesn't want to be anything at all. And it's all this gooey stuff like comes out of him, and he's just like in a slump and he can't move. But technically, it's just his hair. There's nothing major. It's just his hair, you know. And yeah, like, not taking for granted what you do have, because you know, if you were dead, you wouldn't have anything, right? So life has got to be one step up from that. I mean, obviously, I know plenty of people believe that you have everything, you know, like when you continue on after death. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at it from that perspective, where it's like, well, you could not exist, you know. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that to be able to breathe fresh air has got to be a step up from not existing, hasn't it? I mean, I don't know. Plenty of people would argue with that, I'm sure, and then plenty of people would agree. Nothing's really better or worse. The point is educating yourself, how you can deal with loneliness, mental stress, anxiety, depression, things like that. Yeah, educate yourself. That's what I think should be taught in schools. And you can teach that to your children as well, and it doesn't have to be that they're just around people for that to be the only way that it works. This is something that you can instill with, it's an energy, you know, when you are sitting in the energy of, okay, well, I'm alone, but it's alright, I don't mind. I'm gonna get things done, or I'm not gonna get things done, I'm gonna enjoy that as well, you know, that energy is good. Whereas when you're in that place of like, loneliness is terrible, I feel so isolated, I want to cry, I want to die, that energy, you know, it's really slow, right? Really lethargic and not so good. And I can feel the difference just in talking about those two energies that live in the body. I can feel the difference. The first one is acceptance of some kind, where it just says, actually, I'm okay, I accept the reality. I throw hope away for a moment and I just accept the way things are, even if they're really shit. I can still find like a part in me that is okay with it. There is that part of you somewhere in there that's okay, you know, always. So take care.